This is AfriPlus News Channel. Viewers are encouraged to like, share, and subscribe as we dig into one of the most controversial political storms unfolding in West Africa. Today's analysis examines the allegations that France may be linked to the sudden political upheaval in Guinea-Bissau, and the claims that elements within the country may have collaborated with external interests to keep power firmly aligned with France's long-term geopolitical priorities. This is an unfolding situation filled with suspicion, unanswered questions, and concerns about the deeper forces shaping politics across the region. Stay with this analysis until the end. The situation in Guinea-Bissau has sparked intense debate, with allegations circulating that France may be indirectly benefiting from yet another disruption in an African democracy. Observers are asking whether this is part of a broader pattern in which instability becomes a political tool. Why does political tension in African nations so often align with the strategic interests of external powers? And why does it seem like Africa's internal crises consistently create economic and geopolitical advantages for those outside the continent? The claim that France allegedly staged or influenced this coup to sustain its influence over Guinea-Bissau feeds into a long history of accusations surrounding France-Afrique. Whether these allegations are accurate or not, the pattern keeps raising suspicion. Why does France repeatedly appear in conversations about political transitions, contested elections, and sudden shifts in power across Francophone Africa? How many coincidences can occur before they begin to look like a system? And at what point do Africans begin demanding full transparency from all foreign actors who benefit from instability?
Fernando Diaz, the main opposition candidate in Guinea-Bissau, let Wednesday claim victory in a closely contested presidential vote this week. The military takeover has now thrown the West African country into total confusion as elections results were expected to be announced on Thursday. Fernando further alleged the deposed President Embalo Sissoko had fabricated the coup to avoid an election defeat in Sunday's closely contested presidential vote. I simply wanted to inform you that once again we are the target of a fabricated coup attempt. I am the winner of the election. I have polling station reports confirming my victory. I won the election. So how could I possibly orchestrate a coup? After all, who is behind this? Meanwhile, soldiers in Guinea-Bissau on Thursday announced a new junta leader, General Hota Inter, cementing a forceful takeover of power that began after the country's presidential election. Guinea-Bissau has been dogged by coups and attempted coups since independence from Portugal more than 50 years ago, including a coup attempt this October.
Yesterday, around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which was the 27th of November, 2025, a private jet that belongs to France, Detute Aviation, arrived in Guinea-Bissau and picked up the president, the ex-president that was deposed through a military coup. Sissoko flew to Senegal and is currently in Senegal. Now, let's ask a question. What happened in Guinea-Bissau? Was it truly an independent aspirations of the military to take over the country and reinstate civilian rule and order for a transitional period of 1 year? Or was it a planned, orchestrated military coup like what we witnessed in Gabon? If you look at the instance where a French private jet lands in the country and picks up the ex-president that was allegedly deposed, it means something is fishy. How often do they release ex-presidents when they depose them, when they overthrow them? How do they even let them go freely without an investigation, like even for a week, to make sure that everything, that if they want to leave, they're leaving everything intact the way they made it? So I'm beginning to feel like what happened in Guinea-Bissau yesterday probably will not bring the kind of change that people need in Guinea-Bissau. Definitely, it may be something that has been orchestrated just because they don't want the opposition leader to take power. And this is what I've been talking about, that most of these people who are heading these countries, they are so smart and crookish in such a way that anytime they feel like the opposition is coming close to them to win them on the ballot box, sometimes they will orchestrate a coup and leave behind their friends, their cousins that they brought as chief of staffs for the security within the country. And these guys will take over power, and you think that maybe relatively something new will come to the country, and you will see that it's a layover of the previous regime. How did the French aviation airline, Detroit Aviation, come into the country and take away the deposed president less than 48 hours after the military has taken over the country? How is that possible? Because of the publication that they read out, the new leader read out, who is a military guy, it shows that the borders of the country were closed and the airspace equally was closed. And so how did the aviation airline Detroit Aviation from France land in the country and pick up the deposed President Sisi Coup? We also hear information that observers that came in, independent observers that came in, and also the ones from the AU, safely left the country, which is okay. But the ex-president that has been deposed were probably deposed for a reason. So he was supposed to stay back and get some question answered before he can be extradited for safety. But as it is, it shows that something may have taken place. It may be an orchestrated military coup and will not bring any degree of change within the country of Guinea-Bissau.
Some commentators argue that the incumbent president may have staged the event with external support, allegedly following directives that align with French interests. This narrative claims that maintaining a pro-France leadership in Guinea-Bissau protects French political and economic gains in the region. But if this allegation is true, what does it mean for democratic credibility? If the electoral process was interfered with, how does a nation rebuild trust in its institutions? And why would any external power prefer political turbulence over peaceful, legitimate transitions of authority?
They own a house, the president of Guinea owns a house within a policeman camp in France as we speak today. That secretly they re-allow French forces to enter Guinea, right? And they allow French forces to enter Guinea so they can organize coups and rebels against Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Right. It is very clear that Doumbouya, after my research and other, of course, activist comrades from France and from West Africa, it is very clear that the redeployment of the French system within West Africa right now use Ivory Coast and Guinea, right? And within Guinea they have rebels, and they even have what? A new military base. In the north of the country, there's a new airport that have been done in northwest of Guinea, where there is a lot of French plane that can land. But this airport doesn't exist on any map. On any map. We just see the plane coming, up, he's landing, he's going back. Where does he go? He goes to Togo. He goes at the border with Benin also, because now Benin is also really close to the French, fighting Niger from Benin. So they deploy soldiers in Guinea. They inform them and they move them around Benin, Togo, especially Benin, because Benin is at the border. And from the border of Benin, they redeploy the imperialist tool within Niger itself, right? And if you remember well, Niger has captured also French Secret Service agents that and he told them, those guys have been to a military base in Guinea. We want to know what is happening there. The whole region is asking what is happening in that base. Why is it that there's French planes that come in and out, and then we don't know about those planes? Why is it that those planes don't stop in Abidjan or in Conakry or other international airport? What do they stop here? They stop here because they drop military material for spying and for organizing rebels and rebellions.
Another pressing accusation is that this incident could be a deliberate strategy to prevent power from shifting to an opposition group predicted to win. According to this viewpoint, the disruption stops a political transition that might threaten foreign interests. Why do opposition victories in certain countries seem to trigger sudden instability? Why do peaceful democratic changes appear to face so many obstacles when they do not align with external priorities? And why do African citizens have to bear the brunt of political tension created by interests that are not necessarily local? The idea that this event is part of a larger effort to preserve Françafrique only adds more fuel to public anger. Critics argue that France's geopolitical survival in Africa is tied to the continent's political weakness, creating a dynamic where instability becomes profitable. But why should Africa's struggle be the foundation of another nation's prosperity? Why do some powerful countries rely on Africa remaining in a state of recurring political turmoil instead of supporting stable, independent democracies? And how long can such a relationship continue before Africans redefine their political and economic autonomy? Allegations suggest that this situation may reflect a deeper strategy, using internal divisions to maintain external leverage. If these claims hold any truth, they highlight a worrying pattern. Why is African democratic consolidation repeatedly undermined by the same familiar foreign interests? Why do coups and contested elections often benefit those who are not African? And when will African nations collectively address the root cause of external manipulation instead of only reacting to its symptoms? This situation forces a wider question. What future awaits African countries if external dependence continues to shape their political stability? If the continent remains vulnerable to foreign geopolitical engineering, how can sustainable governance ever emerge? And how should African voters respond when their political will becomes secondary to the strategic goals of foreign nations? The biggest concern raised by this controversy is not just the event itself, but the systems behind it. Whether or not France is involved in this particular situation, the recurring pattern across multiple African nations cannot be ignored. Why does France's name surface every time a francophone African country faces political chaos? Why must African progress always be interpreted through the lens of foreign advantage? And when will transparency become a non-negotiable requirement in international engagement with the region? In conclusion, the allegations surrounding Guinea-Bissau are part of a much broader debate about sovereignty, influence, and power. Whether France is involved or not, the pattern of accusations reveals a deeper frustration with historical relationships that limit African independence. This unfolding situation should push viewers to think critically about who benefits from instability, who profits from political uncertainty, and who loses the most when democracy is interrupted. Your perspective matters in shaping the conversation, so viewers are encouraged to share their thoughts respectfully in the comment section. What does this event reveal about the broader geopolitical landscape? And what do you believe should be the next step for African nations seeking full political autonomy? Viewers are encouraged to support this channel by joining our membership community or sending a super thanks. Your support enables us to provide more in-depth analyses and continue amplifying critical conversations shaping today's Africa. Disclaimer: this analysis is based on publicly available information, media reports, and ongoing commentary. It does not accuse any individual, government, or institution of wrongdoing. All allegations mentioned remain unverified, and viewers are encouraged to follow official investigations and credible sources for confirmed updates. The content is for informational and analytical purposes, in line with YouTube community guidelines.